Welcome back to another episode of Together is Better. My name's Jeff Clark with Nitor, and I am honored today to have Natalie Kern from SAP's Global Partner Organization with us today. We are going to have a very authentic, real conversation about customer success, how it's defined, what's changing with the partner community to drive that success, and how SAP is assisting the partner community and their customers as we focus a lot on adoption these days. So we're down here at Sapphire. Today is day one, and we are super excited. So Natalie, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you just got in yesterday,
Yes.
late last night. It is day one of Sapphire. What have the past Sapphires been like, and how do you think this one's going to be different?
Well, this one's definitely going to be different. We have a lot of really cool announcements.
Yes.
Of course, always great content for our partners.
Yeah.
We just have the partner summits running in parallel. So great excitement, great vibes,
Yeah.
some cool acquisitions to be announced. So really overall great enthusiasm about AI particularly as well.
Yeah, I think this one is going to be probably the most impactful Sapphire in a decade. You mentioned the acquisitions, but it's just really kind of the market forces that are shaping all around SAP and the things around agentic, et cetera. But I think this is going to be the most impactful one that I've been to in the past 15 plus years. But how long have you been at SAP now?
Yes, so I've been with SAP actually since 2010, so quite a while, always in the global partner organization in various roles. And since 2017, really in an adoption and consumption role, which is very exciting because so much has moved ever since.
Yes. So in that role, in the partner organization,
Yes.
how has customer success and the definition of that changed? Like, how do you define success today? Because I think it's somewhat shifted over the last 5 years, but really in the last 12 months, there's been a much more of an emphasis on it. What's SAP's definition of customer success?
Absolutely, great question. So customer success is really for us business value realization. We want to make sure that our customers really benefit the most from our solutions and our great partner solutions. And to make that happen is really our mission.
The partners, especially those that are in the solution extension program, are some of the biggest companies in the world, right? The BlackLines, the Icertis, the DocuSigns, et cetera. How does the partner organization support those companies and SAP and the clients together? There's an orchestration that is required there. How has that evolved, and how does it operate today in your experience?
Yeah. So what we see happening, first of all, the Solution Extension Partner Program is a really great one because those ISV solutions complement nicely our portfolio. And that's critical for our customers, obviously. But we not only want to make sure that we position the great value of those solutions in combination with our own portfolio, but we want to make sure that we really see a go live happening and then adoption and customer consumption happening. Now, the great information here is really how do we make that happen given the fact that we bring additional complexity to the table, right? We have SAP, we have the Solix partner, we might have a third-party implementation partner, and of course we have our customers. So there's quite some orchestration required to make that happen and to make sure that the customer really sees the value realization they are expecting from us.
Yeah, you make an interesting point, because if you look at the number of different players, right, that are involved in a customer success, you have an account team at SAP.
Yes.
You have a system integrator. You have multiple different customer success managers and all of these other resources that are all tied together. To me, the complexity had always come from having everybody on the same sheet of music to understand what the customer strategically was looking to achieve. That was not always easy to do when you have a bill of material with all of these different components of it. I think it's an interesting time as you guys focus on how the customers can leverage those resources more efficiently to drive to that outcome. Are there any strategies that you guys are employing today that's different than what you did in the past to help those customers understand what all the different things that SAP and the partner community brings to them?
Yes. So I think what we are doing differently is we put a lot of emphasis on adoption consumption. Now that is obviously also happening because we have adjusted our KPIs around it.
Right.
So you mentioned, the account teams, and you mentioned, the various roles, the sellers, the value architects, the CSMs. It is really, really important that we're all singing from the same song sheet, specifically when there are partners in the loop, right? And you mentioned a large bill of material. Now, we do have the privilege to work with the largest customers out there, but we do bring complexity to it, obviously.
Right.
And we need to make sure that everybody knows when to step in. So if you, for example, have a large, rollout, our partners need to understand, when it's their turn for the implementation. So there's a lot of orchestration required indeed. And I think what is really important for us is that we all know that we're really oriented to create the value. And for that, the orchestration of processes, tools, and people is so mission critical.
Yeah, the prioritization of that, I think that's the layer where in the past it could break, right? Because the system integrator may not be brought in early enough to affect change, to understand the goals the customer was setting. How do you get to the outcome? And then you'd have other support organizations that would come in that also had a lack of that knowledge transfer. That's changed a lot in my observation. I've seen it with Blackline and SAP. I've seen it with Icertis. We see it all the time with Ariba as well. And it's an interesting dynamic because I think the philosophy now is link arms early.
Yes.
Right? Understand what the outcome is for the client, and then orient everybody's activities towards that. And I think that's going to be the seminal shift in it, because the past had been a little bit more blurry.
Yes.
Because there was, you hand the baton off too late, and then what was dropped in some experience, not always, but occasionally. And therefore you had a dip in some capacities of a customer's adoption of that. We've talked earlier about the importance of certain activities to drive that adoption. What do you see as the most important that a customer should focus on if they want to get an accelerated ROI and get adoption out of any of the solutions that SAP and its partners offer?
I think communication is key.
Yes.
And really what we are seeing is that if you define the business requirements really and the goals, and if you really have an adoption plan which guides you towards your goal, I think that is really important. And again, if you do have the players, SAP, the ISV partner, plus maybe a third-party SIs, that everybody understands what is the adoption plan and what is the return on investment the customer at the end wants to achieve. And not only when we have achieved this, then drop the ball, but instead work on continuous improvement, because the innovation cycles are so fast these days. We don't want, the customer to stop and say good enough.
Yeah.
We want the customer to really think about the next rollout, the next AI automation use case, whatever they have in mind, and whatever we feel would be the appropriate next step for a customer in this industry.
Yeah, you nail a very important point, which is the pace of that innovation. And so, when we're talking to our customers, there's so many different priorities. Distilling those into the highest value ones, and then having an adoption first mindset becomes really mission critical, because if you fall behind on any component of that, then it begins to have a bit of a snowball effect.
Yes.
We focus quite a bit in our organization with our customers on change management, right? So you talked about communication.
Yeah.
Super important, right? As a customer is broadcasting not just, okay, this is what we're going to go do from an initiative standpoint, but the why, and then where it's going to lead that organization, and then the operational component of that, to where you're working with a Blackline or an Icertis and SAP together to say, okay, what are those changes that we need to implement in the organization? Because step 2 is we're rolling out this set of agents, right, within the infrastructure, and we're going to focus on this business process. When you talk all the time with the partners, how frequently is the conversation around adoption? Is that very often these days.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And what I love specifically when working with the partners is that we literally rally the troops. So a great example, now obviously you mentioned Blackline and Assert. This is also OpenText, our largest solution extension partner. And basically what we are doing, and I love this, is bringing all the different stakeholders to the table. So we have the customer success organization, we have the alliance team, we have product management because they know what's coming, they know the roadmap. And of course, we have the learning and services organization to make sure that not only the customers are set up for success, but also the global SIs have really good certification program they can leverage, or they have implementation design principles or knowledge base articles right at their fingertips. So it's really this cross-team effort or team sports effort, if you will, to rally the troops, have everybody sort of chiming in and understanding the relevance and the importance, and not just chasing the next deal, but really making sure that we leverage our existing customer base, make them successful, because they will be the ones acting as references and really shouting from the rooftop that they are happy customers and will generate more revenue. But it's really a fun time, and great to see how much emphasis there is on adoption these days.
I think there's a lot of energy, and we've talked about as well, the market's driving that.
Oh yes.
Right, with AI and any subscription-based company, as the customers in the world is really starting to kind of get on this path and journey towards outcome, right? And then what does that mean in a agentic world as well? What are those impacts? I love the fact that SAP is coordinating and organizing that at scale, because it's not easy to do, and especially if you look at the size of the companies that SAP works with, the demands on those, the partner organizations. And that was always, to me, the challenging part was there were so many different resources, but none of them were really as coordinated as they needed to be to really drive that adoption story for a customer.
It has changed dramatically, and I think it is amazing to see how really everybody zooms in on customer success and how we are driving, the momentum. It's how we are moving the needle on that.
Yeah, it's a leadership position that I think SAP should take, and you guys have embraced it, which is awesome. A lot of talk is going to be at this conference, I think, around AI, obviously, and agents and agentic. What are you hearing from your partners about what they're doing and how they're coordinating with SAP?
Now, that's obviously a really interesting discussion, because our partners are developing, in parallel. And we, of course, have a lot of co-innovation happening. So we bring our product management team together with their product management team. And we want to make sure that, what is developed is secure, scalable, and the customers really get the most benefits out of that. And really important for us is that we don't only generate the excitement, but that we really get the business values out to the customers, right? Because they are interested in, a higher degree of automation. They're interested in the efficiencies and the productivity gains, which we can sort of address with the innovation which is going on.
Well, I think the tool sets too, the BTP, right, Joule, and you nail a very, very important point, because as you think about that world that we're in and entering into more deeply around agentic, you absolutely must have certain controls.
Yes.
And I think that's a very important thing that SAP has rightfully said, hey, we need to ensure our customers are going to have the controls and the safety and the other things that they need, because there are a lot of unknowns, right, when you employ an agent infrastructure. So that coordination, I think, between the product engineering teams at SAP and then what the partner ecosystem is building really becomes important, right? Because then they're synthesizing that information and they're making sure that the guardrails are in place so that the customer can digest a lot of those agents, get the efficiencies they're looking for, and not have to worry about an audit and some of the other things that can happen. And so I think SAP is certainly leading the way with that.
And we're very proud of that.
This is going to be the Wild West.
For sure.
For
We're
sure.
so proud that we have so capable great, amazing partners, really supporting our journey and bringing their, intellectual property in, and really that we sort of are better together, right?
Yeah.
That, we can really make sure that their solutions nicely complement our portfolio, and that we really have a strong value proposition to our customers.
Yeah, the ability to build now for really anybody is amazing. Like even internally in our own company, that we have all these different initiatives and have for some time, leveraging different foundation models and building things on our own. Some of them are internal, right? So as we think about how do we drive higher value for our customers, but also what problems can we go solve that we would never have been able to do in the past, that now are insanely easy in some ways to at least get the frameworks up. So, I think it's exciting for SAP customers because you have this toolkit that's available and you can leverage a lot of that to really get deeper insights. So, we're excited about that. I mean, what percentage of your partners do you think are taking advantage of those builds? To me, it seems like it's a pretty high percentage of the partners that are leveraging BTP and Joule, and they're working with their own customers to help customize certain solutions.
We are absolutely pushing the needle, and that is, one of the big agenda items, as you can imagine, at the Partner Summit. And our partners see the value of our technology, of BTP and Joule, and how they can leverage that for their solutions. Now, I think what is really interesting is that the innovation cycles we're able to sort of focus on and zoom on together is really this aspect about co-innovation, how we can complement each other, and what SAP is developing and what our partners are bringing to the table is really impressive. And our customers are really pushing us hard, right? Because they see what a great partner like Blackline and Icertis and OpenText can bring to the table, and how that nicely complements our portfolio. So we have a lot of strategy meetings with customers where they basically ask us, how would this all work well together? Because our customers are really interested in integration. They do not want a lot of broken links, right? They want a really solid IT infrastructure and IT landscape where all those solutions are fully integrated, powered by AI on top, right? So I think it's really this strategy that is so important.
Yeah, and I think if you look out, if I'm a CIO, if I'm a CFO, for example, and I'm looking out 10 years in the future, and you're looking at your IT architecture and all of the different applications that you've been supporting, if you have that idea and mindset that says, okay, over the next 2 to 3 years, I have to have clean data. I have to have an ability to take structured and unstructured data, right, and pull those together, because at the end of the day, what's possible in 2 years, 3 years, let alone 10 years, right, is going to require to have that foundation very well laid and very, very secure, if you want to call it. So I think that's the beauty of the model right now from SAP is, okay, we're going to help get these customers over this journey, and it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
It's an iterative process. We're going to provide the toolkits to not just them, but also the partners as well. And then we want to try to pull everybody together. And I thank you for throwing out there the together is better, because I believe that's the world we're entering.
Absolutely.
You cannot do this alone anymore.
It's a team sport.
It's a team sport.
And as you mentioned, right, it's a team sport, but with guiding principles, right?
Exactly.
It's really about, you have to have the integration, you have to have the processes, the operations all mapped out.
Yes.
And you have to guide, your customer base along those guiding principles, and everybody sort of contributing and bringing their expertise to the table.
Yes.
And I think that's really where the potential is.
I agree. We use an analogy with our customers about climbing, right? So I did some climbing when I was a younger guy.
Yes.
If you think about the climb, like for an Everest, Mount Everest, tallest mountain in the world, you have to have a guide, a Sherpa, right? So to understand the route to take, understand where you need to stop and rest. And what we looked at when we kind of built out this slide for our customers is, this area right here is the death zone. where if you don't have, right, the right amount of expertise and partnership, right, and communication, where projects go sideways.
Yeah.
And then it's not just one thing to kind of get to the top, which is to me, okay, you're implemented, is what happens day one after hypercare to drive the outcome of that program. And that's where we go back to kind of full circle on the adoption side, which I think the mindset in the industry has changed versus of a, hey, let's just go sell software and go implement it. Let's go have a conversation about what happens in the first 18 months of your program.
It's so important, and that's really those moments that matter are so important, right? If you just think about this great example, you have a customer who's highly invested, has promised to the leadership that this project will fly, and it comes to a stop. This is super problematic for our customers. Not only did they lose the investment, but they lost valuable time to stay competitive and to be sort of the industry leader in their space. And what is also interesting, you mentioned this great analogy. I have another one, which in the finance CSM space, it was mentioned at one of the customer success days. I love that. Just imagine if you have somebody going to a sports club and they sign up for membership and they get this membership, they sign the contract and off you go on your own. Well, would that really be successful? Sure, some pull through and some will reach their, goal, but you will be so much more successful if you have a team of personal trainers who build a plan, who literally explain what are the different milestones, what are the success goals, and then shepherd you through, right, those goals. And there are always moments where, maybe, you have resource constraints or you get pulled off or whatsoever. Well, not a problem. Then you readjust the plan and you still end up at the top, right? Whereas if you're on your own, because hypercare stopped,
You get lost and fall in a crevasse.
It is,
It's over.
So the likelihood to be successful if you have, learning services, some trusted partners who shepherd you along is so much more successful typically. So we just increase the likelihood of successful projects and some continuous improvement and value realization.
Yeah, it's interesting because especially in our customer base, which is around, procurement and finance as well, obviously.
Yes.
When I talk to a CFO, it's, hey, how do I accelerate that ROI? What are the KPIs, month 3, right? Month 6, month 9. The goalposts have shifted, right? And the expectations have changed, I think, and they're heightened. And so what SAP is doing with the partner organizations, I think, is the right thing at the right moment in time, because the mindset of the decision makers has shifted. The boards are requiring more. So the investment that they made, they want to make sure they're getting something out of it. And they had, more latitude, I want to say, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Now it's like the pace of the innovation so quick. They want to do it in more bite-sized chunks. They want to consume it, right? They want to drive stability, optimization in that, and then move on to the next component of that, which in some ways is very wise because again, things are moving so quickly. You don't want to over-index into certain areas too quickly.
And you also want to establish this mindset of it is a continuous exercise,
100%.
right? Because the innovations are happening so quickly. We don't want a customer to have a mega project which takes 2 years and then they're all exhausted and drop the ball and never touch a running system, right? We really want to ingrain in them that there is so much great innovation happening that they need, to stay on those continuous process improvement cycle. And we have great tools for that as well. It's, what a great momentum for customers to literally use technology to be on top of.
Yeah, we are in the most interesting wave of tech in my lifetime.
Very exciting,
and it's fun, right? Because now I think there's a new energy back into it, but it does change, what conversations we have with customers, what tools they want to consume, how partners are layered into that journey that they're on, and then how SAP is even embracing that as well. With, how they're folding in a lot of the partners to drive a lot of the outcomes for the customers. But to your point, like just the sets of tools that are available now. You mentioned the learnings and stuff like that. What else does SAP offer customers now to help drive that consumption of those tools and the adoption. Is there anything else that you guys are working on as well?
I mean, the big launch obviously was our new support and services layers. So we do have success plans,
Yes.
which we launched, and a 3-tier model, which really fits nicely the needs of those customers. And then in addition, you do have the possibility to add additional services to it, right? Learning services, adoption services,
Right.
or on the AI side, we do have dedicated SWAT teams, like an AI factory, which we can sort of pull in, because we want to make sure that the customers are well aware of the innovation happening, and then we want to sort of push the needle on getting them started, because we all have to be very honest with ourselves. Customers have a competing agenda as well. They
Right.
have limited resources, and they need to, put their big bets into, they have to decide where they want to spend their capacity and their focus on. And I think that's super, super important, to stay close to the customers and to explain where the value is, and to, have bite sizes. Do not overwhelm them, do not scare them away. But really make sure that they have a great adoption plan laid out, leverage the services which SAP brings to the table, and are also well aware of what partners can bring to the table, because subject matter experts are always welcome.
Yeah, I think also that there are some incredible tools, that you have like within the BTM team, right? So you have a Signavio and a WalkMe.
Oh, yeah.
Right, you have a Lean IX. We've leaned, for lack of a better word, with Lean IX, but we've leaned very heavily into that because we see tremendous value for customers. What we see is customers don't always have a really clear idea of their processes, their workflows, how things are connected within their organizations. Some are better than others, but tools like Signavio provide deeper insights. And as we think about driving adoption, right, and consumption, we'll leverage that up front so that we're solving for the big problems. A lot of times when we're engaged in a discovery process, we'll talk to 3 or 4 different people and get 3 or 4 different ways that they believe that same process is actually managed. Then we drive a quantitative, data-driven insights out of a Signavio and say, you're partially right, but the data shows that it's these 3 different elements here. Why don't we focus on those first in the deployment, and then focus on driving better throughput efficiencies and adoption on those. And what we've seen is that the outcomes skyrocket because you're solving the problems that are material, like the high percentage problems. And therefore, when you think about customer satisfaction, you think about adoption, well, you're solving the main issues up front and early in design, right? So that the customer's implemented properly. And that's what's, I think, changed the game a little bit on the adoption side too, which is take the time to understand it and then design fit for purpose and fit for outcome, right? And for acceleration of ROI and value. Then the customer's gonna get it. It's hard to do it retroactively. If you designed it poor and implemented it poorly, because they weren't brought in early. So I think they're all linked together now in a value chain, where before that hadn't been the case.
And I think this data-driven approach is really important, because customers very often have to defend why they're doing this exercise now. And if they can prove from a data-driven approach, this is where we are, we see gaps, there's room for improvement, and this is exactly what we're planning, and this will be the outcome, well, the likelihood of engaging and putting the resources into this project is so much higher. So that's really important. And we see that in all the strategy meetings we're doing with customers and partners, obviously, that if you have really data insights, and ideally even when you are go live, functional usage insights, and can literally tell the customer, dear customer, this is where you are in your industry. A customer comparable size would be here. So let's bridge this gap. Let's see how we can get you from here to there. So I think there's so much knowledge in the data, and it's really important that you focus on the metering to understand where the customer stands, and then have all the answers, how to get a customer from A to B.
That's the Sherpa.
Yes,
right? Getting them up the
absolutely.
mountain and then getting them back down safely.
Doing the health check first.
Yeah, the health check, super important, right?
Define the goals, that
Yeah.
it's not a moving target because
Yeah.
you do not want to climb, the
Right.
wrong one. And then, celebrate at the end and then figure out what is the next one to climb, because we do not want to stop, right?
No,
We
they
want
can't stop anymore, right? That's the other thing, which is there's no destination anymore, right? It's just the journey. And I think that's kind of the fun part for us with our customers is, okay, this is kind of step one in this evolution, right? Because again, we're entering a world that is so foreign to all of us.
Yeah.
I even looked at what my kids, I told them, I said, listen, you're entering a world, let's get you on Claude, right? And let's go into Builder. And what's your passion right now? Okay, well, I would love to, design my own zoo or something like that. And in like 5 minutes, they've kind of built these things. So the entrepreneurial aspects of that and what you can do is just almost limitless, especially for them. And for customers, it's really the same principles apply, right? You're not going to change, like certain businesses, obviously, the core way you operate is not going to fundamentally change, but the tools that you can drive to, better integrate, better support, create new other opportunities, I think is going to be important. But the foundation of SAP, of the ERP and the line of business applications is not going to change that much.
Absolutely.
It's just going to get augmented.
Absolutely. And I love the way you framed it in a sense. Nobody knows how in 5 years and 10 years it will all look. But if you have the right guardrails, if you have the right, security aspects around it, if you have this human in the loop aspect, right? Still, I think there is a lot of efficiency you can have, but then really free up resources for really cool and exciting stuff, right? We do not want to focus on repetitive actions anymore, right?
No.
Whatever, you mentioned the finance space, whatever can be automated there, let's do it.
Yes.
And let's focus on the fun stuff. I mean, the where really the company moves ahead.
Yeah, the high value activities, the expertise level. I'm starting to define it myself as kind of the intelligence level. So, as you automate, various other processes, right? Or you have an agentic agency that's helping with the workflows and pulling from structured and non-structured data. You got to have discernment. So you could also call it the discernment layer, which is kind of a biblical thing to say, but it's more along the lines of telling the customer and guiding them, turn left, not right. This is what I'm seeing historically. The data is telling you this, and it's 85% right. But that 15% is where I say turn left. I think that's where things are going to shift over time. And I think that's going to be interesting because you are going to want deep industry expertise, deep process expertise. Those human in the loop activities are those today and certainly in the future moving forward. But it's going to be it's a crazy time to be alive.
Absolutely. And I think specifically speaking about the finance side, what is really cool, you have in specific jobs, you have those peaks, right, where the work-life balance suffers. But if you can sort of take that burden of those peaks, like, the financial closing time, if you can sort of automate some of the things, it will just be, so much better for the work-life balance at the end as well. So I think there's really a lot of potential in there to make jobs more attractive. And we can all sort of...
Who doesn't want an agent working on their behalf, right? So that you do free up more time, right? There's kind of that path of an age of abundance that you come from, you get to eventually with some of this, to where you could get much better balance in your life to, go after pursuits that you enjoy and your passions. All right, so a couple more days left here. Anything that you are most excited about beyond, I know you're speaking here in a couple hours.
I am,
as well. Any other parts of Sapphire that you're really looking forward to?
Well, of course, the keynotes with all the announcements, I love that, although we had some briefings, obviously. But I just love, the buzz and meeting all my partners here and customers. So I'm so excited, it's really so vibrant, so much going on, and having the announcements and then speaking to the partners immediately after and to the customers, and that is just the best.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing you speak. I'm certainly looking forward to the next 2 days here. It's going to be super exciting.
I definitely love the collaboration, so thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, again, grateful to Natalie Kern for joining us today on another episode of Together is Better. Please like, follow, or make any comments. We'd love to hear your feedback.